had to lie. And they caused him to lie. That's something that he can never forgive them. Now this speaks volumes of what it means, a sensitivity to emes. They mamish try to kill him. That he could overlook. But for him to have to overlook the emes was such a traumatic experience, he couldn't be moichel the communists. And the emes is the more you zeicha to learn, you see the sensitivity that the Torah Kedosh, that Chazal, that we're supposed to have to emes. Do we need more than the fact that the Torah, by only this lav, says midvar sheka tirchak, says in Mesil Sharm in the beginning of Perek Yud Aleph, we don't find about other lavim, tirchak, not just don't do it, stay away. The Chinuch Mitzvah Ayin Dalet says that sheker is nisov v'nelach v'ein dova mos mimenu, and that brings klal into one's home. And then he also points out the lashon of tirchak. Do we need more than the Gemara in Sanhedrin of Tzadik Beis, kol hamachlef b'dibur, someone that lies, kilu oiver avodah zarah. Now lying is a terrible aveira, no doubt. Why is that like avodah zarah? But Lamaisa, there's so much pashtis, halacha Lamaisa, to this statement. Because the Rebbe Shalom is emes, his Torah is emes, we are an anshe emes. And how does a person in his right mind even believe that he'll gain from lying if the Rebbe Shalom is emes? So when someone does resort to lying, he's subscribing to an halacha. He's following a different God that runs the world, because the Rebbe Shalom does not tolerate emes, sheker. And the emes is, that's why I saw the Chazon Ish and Emun and Betach and Daled Yud Gimel urges us, we have to talk about emes and shiurim and chinuch habanim, because there are so many shilas that come up and people don't have the guidance. I guess I could say what was the clincher that I decided I must talk about the sugya. Someone told me, and he said it very with tmimus. He said, you should know the Yesod of Shalom Bayis is lying. I said, what? He goes, yeah, I'll tell you his pashut. He says, because you get into trouble, right? You do something wrong, what do? So you lie your way out of it. Or your wife says, do this. You say, no problem, but you don't plan on doing it. What's the heta? You're allowed to lie for Shalom Bayis. So when I heard that, I realized that's it. We have to talk about the importance of emes. You know, it's true, as we'll see, in some situations, the mitzvah to lie al shalom, but it doesn't mean to live a life of sheker. But the emes is, as we said, and we'll see more, there are numerous gemaras that seem to indicate that there is a heter to lie. I saw the Ben Ish Chai in the Torah Lishma and his Tshuva Sefer Siman Shin Samach Daled collects 45 different gemaras in Shas about emes, and you'll see some of them, taka, it's less than emes. So our job today is to understand the importance of emes, when you're allowed to deviate from the emes, and perhaps most of all, if indeed emes is so important, how could there ever be a havamina to lie? Kolshkin and maskana, as we see, it's a mitzvah l'shana b'nei hashalom. We know that mitzvah b'aveira ain't a mitzvah. You can't do an aveira for a mitzvah. The ends don't justify the means. We call that a mitzvah b'aveira ain't a mitzvah. So we have to learn today a Gemara in Bava Metziach of Gimel Amud Beis that I believe is packed with information. It's a very brief Lashon Gemara, but as we'll see, every word is an important concept. Zog the Gemara in Bava Metziach of Gimel Amud Beis, Bahani Tlas Mili, in these three things, Avidi Rabbanon, the Talmidei Chachamim are accustomed to Meshanu b'milayu, that they change from the truth. B'mesechta, ubepuria, uveshpiza. So let's go one word at a time. Three things you're allowed to lie. First, what's the lashon three? Is that only three? Is that a gimel ksuma bayim ke'echad? What is the lashon avidi? Avidi sounds to be that it's ragil, constant. Why did the Gemara say rabbanan? And if you're not married, you're not allowed to use this heta. And also the strange choice of lashon mishanu b'diburayu. Why don't you say you're allowed to lie? And what are these three things? So let's learn Rashi and Taisus, and let's learn the sugya. Zakt Rashi, what does it mean mesechta? Someone asks you, do you know the mesechta? And you taka know it. Don't say, I know it. Say, I don't know it. It's sheker. You do know it. Zok Rashi, umidas anavihi. To say I know the Masechta is gaiva. You don't want to start up with gaiva. Stay away from gaiva. So instead you're allowed to lie and say I don't know it. Now if you don't know it and you say you know it, that's takasheka and gaiva. But here he does know it. So what's that to say I don't know it? Anava. Now this needs a hezba. Anava is a tire and midah, and gaiva is a very destructive attitude. So what's the heta to lie? You're running away from one fire into another fire of sheker. But let's move on. What's the second mashal? Puria. So Rashi has a very interesting pshat. They asked you, are you mashamish mitascha? Say no, al tznius. Now, Taisus asks, no one asked such a question. Zok Taisus, if he's a Balkari and he's embarrassed, he's allowed to lie. Okay. So here we see a second category of an heta, either al tznius, like Rashi, or he's embarrassed. Now, this is also a chiddush, because this is not a question of gaiva, this is a question, you're embarrassed. So, what's the heta? It's interesting, the Marsha says, a Moridik Pshat. Puria is in those famous words that became a very popular niggin, Chayiv inish lepsumi bepuria. Pariah, actually. Zok the Marsha, Pshat the Gemara is, it comes Purim, and the person can drink to get shikah, but obviously he's embarrassed that he's not shikah. He's allowed to say he's shikah and act shikah. That's pshat, puria. You're allowed to lie as if you're shikah. Now, of course, it's strange if you can't drink, so don't drink. Who asked you to drink? You have to lie? So maybe he's embarrassed, or maybe he's afraid he's going to misbehave if he does drink, but he's pastimish not to drink, so this way he controls himself. But the emes is, this is similar to the other Gemara. If a person's embarrassed, he's allowed to lie, but it needs a hezbah. The third example where you're allowed to lie is ushpiza. So Rashi explains, a person stayed by someone's house for Shabbos, and he had wonderful accommodations, and they ask you, no, how was your Shabbos? How was your stay by that host? If you're going to say it was wonderful, so people are going to go to him more and more. And that's going to cause him loss. Tosfos quotes the famous Gemara in Erech and Daf Sev Zayin. If you speak about someone's wonderful hospitality, that's a klala, because everybody finds out that he's Mr. Nice Guy, and they're going to form a double line in front of his house. So therefore, you're allowed to lie and say, no, it wasn't good. These are the three categories where you're allowed to lie. Masechta, Puria, and Ushpiza. And as we'll see, this is quoted in Choshe Mishpat, the end of Siman Reish Samach Beis. And if you like a remez, I saw the Ben Yayada on this Gemara in Bab Metzia says, the three categories is the word emes. Aleph is Ushpiza, Mem is Masechta, and Saf is Tashmish. If you want an earlier source, the Prisha and the Sma, it's the same Mechaba. In the end, in Choshe Mishpat, the end of Reish Samach Beis says on the word Elef, or like teach, or like Aleph, teach yourself to be emes. Elef, Aleph is the Rashi Tevis Ushpizia, Limud, and Puraya. So here we have a Gemara that's Gepaskin and Shulchan Aruch, but the big question is, what is it supposed to mean? Why is there a het to lie? But one thing is clear, it's lav dafka these three. There is a Gemara, which that person that I mentioned earlier obviously terribly misquoted it, but the Gemara in Yevamos Daf Samach Hayamad Beis, Mutter leila adam l'shanais b'dvar shalom. You're allowed to deviate from the truth because of shalom. And the Gemara has a raya from Yosef and the brothers. Then the Gemara adds, Rabbi Nasan am a mitzvah. Not only you're allowed to, it's a mitzvah. Because the Rebbeinu Shalom told Shmuel in a difficult situation to lie. Now, sometimes you hear people say, Em is a mitzvah, em tzivah grabim. I've yet to find that mitzvah. But here there's a mitzvah to lie. The Gemara says it's a mitzvah to lie. The mere fact that the Rebbeinu Shalom commanded Shmuel to lie, obviously it's a mitzvah. The question is, why does the Gemara say three things? What about Shtarkei Shalom? So Tosfos and Bab Metzia asked this question, and Tosfos explains the three things are included in Darkei Shalom. Okay, so evidently, maybe it's Darkei Shalom and three things. But that's not true. Because there's another Gemara, another category that you're allowed to deviate from the truth. In Ksubis, the end of Daf Tezayim, Keitzad Miragdin Lefnei HaKala. How do you, not dance, Rashi says, how do you speak about the Chassan and Kala? So Beis Shammai says, say it as it is. What can you do? Got to say the truth. Beis Hillel says, no. Every Chassan and Kala, you're allowed to say Kala no v'chasuda. So Beis Shammai says, that's very nice, that's being very positive. But how do you lie? So it's a good kasha, you're not allowed to lie. So what's Beis Hillel's response? And so what are you going to do if someone bought an item and he asks you, how do you like it? And you thought you're going to chalash when you saw it. So what do? Of course you have to praise him. Here also, when it comes to Chas and Kala, no matter what the Chas and Kala really are, praise them, Kala no v'chasudim. And therefore, Beis Hillel concludes, Mikam Amru Chachamim, La'olam teidaiti shel adam mureves emebriyos. Zokt Rashi, Lasais leish v'ish kiritzoinim. In other words, don't be so technical, just say good things about people. Now we'll soon apply this Halacha. But here we see another category that you're allowed to deviate from the truth when it comes to speaking by a Shever Brachis, or when someone asks you, how do you like my new car? No matter how you like it, say it's beautiful. And granted, this is brought in Even Ezra, Siman Samachei Sif Aleph. And again, we'll soon see what to do l'maisa. But it seems it's not only Hani Tlas. And how can we not mention the well-known Medrash in Malachi, Beis Vav, how Aaron HaKoyin was Oyev Shalom v'Roidev Shalom. What did he do? So it's Mavaldik. The Olam knows what, Aaron's technique, but how detailed it is, that the Medrash says, he went over to someone and says, your friend is mamish suicidal. He feels so bad. The lashon of the Medrash is, he's pulling out his hair, he's tearing off his skin, he's tearing at his heart. He can't go on knowing that he's in a machlokes with you. Then he went over to the other party, told them the same story. 2 lies. Obviously, you're allowed to lie for shalom. So I saw the Emek Bracha in Amud Samach Dalid. He says, obviously, he says that lying for Darkei Shalom is mutter, even though it's not the truth. And it's lav dafka hani tlas, because any situation, he says, there are many rayas. So it seems that it's lav dafka hani tlas. It seems that a general heta, when a person's in a sticky situation, he's allowed to lie. But now the question is even stronger. Now that it's lav dafka hani tlas, how do you understand? There seems to be this easy pass if you're in trouble to lie. So I want to tell you what I think is the pashat pshat. Imagine the following scene. You're home, and suddenly someone breaks through the door. Help, help, someone's after me, he's going to kill me. So you say, quick, hide under the bed. 13 seconds later, someone breaks into the door, a 7-foot person carrying a dagger with blood dripping from his previous victim, and he comes over to you point blank, look me in the eye. I know you're Jewish, you don't lie. Tell me the truth. Is there a Jew hiding in this house? Tell me the truth, don't lie. What are you going to do? Say, I got to say the truth. He's under the bed, and Yiskadlov's God the Shmei Rabbah. What are you going to do? Now, of course, you're not going to say, yes, he's under the bed. Why not? I got to be emes. I ain't allowed to lie. So is the only het to bekuach nefesh? Doesn't sound right. The pshat is sheker is so evil because it's a terrible mazik. Dishonesty in business brings geneva, chel Hashem, layolenu. Lying to another person is the ruination of Yad Mechaverei. Sheker is the ruination of Shalom Bayis. And worst of all, when a person is not honest with himself, when he's living a lie, that's the ruination of Ein Adam La'atzmai. Bekitzer, Sheker is a terrible mazik. But in the above situation, telling that murderer the truth, that's the biggest churban. And saying he's not here is an atzola. I saw the Michtav Eliyahu in Chelik Aleph, page 94. He has a discussion, Mahu emes u'mahu sheker. And he says, and I quote, Nimtza, she'emesu ma shemevi l'toiv u'l'ratzan habayri. V'shekehu ma shenoishen atzlocha l'yisakav shel sar ha'sheka ha'sitra acha. Basically, emes brings to Ratzon Hashem. And sheker is the opposite. And I think we could add, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, in one of his many svarim, he has a pirush on Masech Kusim. I don't know if the other was familiar, but there's a little Masech in the back of Avodah Zarah, Masech Kusim. Reb Chaim wrote a pirush on it. And in the pirush that he called Mitahar Ois Lamid, he has a discussion about emes and sheker. And there he basically says that the real Issa Deraisa of sheker is when you damage the other person. Ayin Sham B'timtza. But I was thinking, Oy Bazoy, according to that definition, if your sheker saves the other person, that's not sheker. If your emes harms the other person, then that's sheker. Sheker is when a person does the opposite of Ratzon Hashem. Emes is what brings Ratzon Hashem. So it's obvious in the situation that the murderer is after that nirdaf. Saying the emes is the biggest sheker. Saying sheker is not pshat that it's sheker and eser doichalaisa say, or the ends justify the means. In this situation, that's not emes. And I saw the Ritva and our Gemara in Ksubis, Haf Yudzayin, Kol shu meidarkei shalom ein boy midvar sheker tircha. In other words, whenever you're in a situation, the Chazal advise deviating from the truth, that's not the pshat, you're doing an aveira lishma. That's not sheker. And I think it's very meduyik, because in both Gemaras, in Bava Metzia and in Yevamis, the Gemara says, Mutter l'shanois b'bnei darkei shalom. Mutter l'shanois b'hani tlas. Why did the Gemara say Mutter l'shaker? The teretz is because it's not sheker. When Chazal advise us to lie, that's not sheker. And I think a perfect analogy that really highlights this pshat, we know, halavai, we know more and more, but there's a terrible aveira called Lashon Hara. The Rambam says Lashon Hara is machriv esa'olam. But if you're asked for information about a shidduch, or about hiring a certain worker, and you know the work is a ganef, the Chavetz Chaim paskin this pashit, you're mechuyev to say, stay away from him, he's a ganef. I Lashon Hara. How could you say bad information? The teretz is pashit. In this situation, you're mechuyev to say the truth. It's not the issa deraisa of leisei lechrachol b'amecha. It's the mitzvah deraisa leisamad adam riyecha. And this is the very big sugya of Lashon Hara l'toyelas. Now, really, that description is a misnomer. When you have a heter to say Lashon Hara, it's not Lashon Hara l'toyelas. It's not Lashon Hara. It's the mitzvah deraisa leisamad adam riyecha. But I guess there's no other word to say. What do you say? Lashon toiv l'toyelas. But when someone says Lashon Hara toyelas, he should really say Nemuchan Mezumah the kaim the mitzvah deraisa leisamad adam riyecha. So it's not pshat you're allowed to say Lashon Hara. In this situation, it's not Lashon Hara. And I think the same is true when you have a situation of sheker l'toyelas. It's not sheker. You know, it's interesting, the remez of the three things you're allowed to lie is the word emes, as the Ben Ish Chai says. Because in those situations, that's the emes. So it's not the pshat that you're allowed to lie. Here, the Ratzon Hashem, that's the emes. I mean, the mere fact that Kaviyachal 1,000 times, Bari Olam was Mishaker, Vadayni, Vanizokanti, like we know in Parshas Vayeri, the Gemara says, is the biggest right that's not sheker. So let me be very clear. Sheker is still intolerable. You know, Rabbi Zechariah once told us the Chazon Ish could not say the word sheker out of his mouth. Because him, the word sheker was nivel peh. Or like one Gadol said, 99% emes is still sheker. That's the truth. Sheker sanei sivo as evo, like David HaMelech said, is still true. And we still have to live with Vasheker Tirchak. But in a situation that Chazal advise us to, that's not sheker, that's emes. Halavai, we had more time to speak about the importance of emes, but let me just tell you one more part, I think says it all. It's interesting that the Avais had their defining moment of greatness. Avram had his Akedah, Yitzchak had his Akedah. Rabbi Yakov Kamenetsky and Emes Yakov in Parshas Toldos asked, what was the Akedah of Yaakov? Where did Yaakov show his ultimate greatness in his lifetime? So Rabbi Yankov said it of a nifla, that Yaakov Avinu was the epitome of emes. Titen emes li Yaakov. Yaakov hated Sheker with every fiber of his existence. And yet Yaakov, of all the Avos, had the nisyonis of saying Sheker. He was mechuyev to say Sheker with the brachos, and he Eisa, B'chari, whatever. And then he had to cheat Lavan. And then they told Esav, I'll meet you a Seira. And the Gemara learns you're allowed to lie when you have to. And then with Shechem, he also was involved, but he didn't want to get involved. But for Yaakov, the biggest ordeal, the most traumatic experience, the Akedas Yaakov, was he had to lie. That's how difficult it was. But if that's the Ratzon Hashem, I'll do it. Avram had to shecht his own son. That was the ultimate Akedah. Yaakov had to lie when that was the Ratzon Hashem, and for him it was almost unbearable. But that's the attitude that we all need. It should be an Akedah when we have to deviate from the truth. I heard this from an Einik of Rabbi Chatzkel Levenstein. They once asked him to be maspid, one of the Gedolei Yerushalayim, a very good friend of his. I'm mistaken, is Rabbi Isaac Sher. And Rabbi Chatzkel said, I can't be maspid him. So they asked him, why not? You're a good friend of his. He says, you're right, I really should. But I just heard from Chutz Laretz, one of his Einikach was nifta suddenly. I'm afraid when I get up to make a hesped on this Adam Gadol, I'm going to cry a little bit my own tsar. Ich will nicht falsche Tränen. I don't want to cry false tears. People think, oh, he's crying about Rabbi Isaac, and it's really his Einikach. A sensitivity, falsche Tränen, and how about falsche Werte? So let me just quote to you what I saw, the Oirach Meisharim, the end of Perik Tes. Here we're going to talk a whole shit about lying, but we have to have equal timing, which we can have, but at least we should know that we have to be careful, and even when there's a heta, to think it over. Because remember, Svas emes tikein lo'ad, ki emes yega chiki. Halavai, we should have the sensitivity that we need, and then we can learn the sugya when indeed you're allowed to deviate from the truth. The Yisoid is, as we said, Sheker is anti-Ratzon Hashem. And Emes is Ratzon Hashem. We did not redefine the word Emes. The word redefine wreaks havoc in Klal Yisrael. We defined it. The Emes is Ratzon Hashem. And therefore we can understand Bahani Klas Mili. Now, Grada, I should mention the Rif in Masechta Bava Metzia wonders, there's Hani Klas, and there's also mitzvah lashanis medarka shalom. What's the chilik? Zok the Rif that when it comes to shalom, it's a mitzvah to lie, like the Marataka Paskins. Bahani Klas is a rishus. So that would be the chilik in categories. But the truth is, one thing it seems clear, whether it's a mitzvah or a heta, the only time it's mutter to lie is if it's the only last resort. If you could deflect the question without lying, that's much better. I saw the Orchas Tzadikim in the end of Shar Sheka. He quotes our Gemara, you're allowed to lie. But he says, but you know what's much better to do? Someone asks you, do you know the Masechta? And you're talking, know it well. Why don't you say something like, why do you think I know the Masechta? Oh, I know the Masechta? Yeah. Isn't that a better way of doing it? You avoid gaiva, and you don't have to lie. I finished the Masechta finished me. But the emes is, this attitude is a Beferish Gemara. Otherwise, a Pliyadik Gemara. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Rav Tzadik Zayin, Rav Tev Yumei was an Ish Emes. And he moved to a city, Kushta, that no one lied and no one died prematurely. It's a good shidduch, he belonged there. One day, his wife was combing her hair, and someone came to the door. Is your wife home? And Rav Yumi felt it was lacking. Obviously, it was lacking in tznius to say she's washing her hair. So he said she's not home. The next day, 2 of his children were nifta, and that caused an uproar in the city. No one died in the city prematurely, so they came to investigate. They says, "What happened there? You must have lied." So he told them the story. I didn't lie, but I tried. I didn't want to say she's washing her hair, so I said she's not home. So he told them nicely, please find a different house, different city to live in. You can't live in our city. So it's a pliya. He lied, l'chayra, al tznius. That's purya. Why was he punished? The teretz probably is he could have said something a little more parva. I'm sorry, she's not available. Why did he have to lie? Enechanami, there was a heta, but why did he have to lie point blank? And I saw the Yaivitz, Kamat says the same Yisoid. He says, Enechanami, that it was a darke shalom, but he could have said a different lashon. I think he meant to say pashat. He could have said she's not home. And the emphasis, if you think about the analogy that we drew from the case of lashon hara tayeles, it's so meduyik. Because the Chafetz Chaim said, even in a situation that it's a mitzvah to say lashon hara. Let's say someone asks you about a shidduch and taka the bacha has big chesrainis. You're allowed to say lashon hara, but better would be just to say something like, I know you, I know the bacha. It's not for you. The Chafetz Chaim quotes the Gemara v'chidilta ani in Sanhedrin Yud Aleph. In other words, you have to accomplish something, so do it, but avoid saying lashon hara. The same is true here. You have a way of avoiding outright sheker. It should burn in your neshama v'chishakun ani. I remember once there was a bachat that asked me to shayla. His parents insisted that he plays ball 3 hours every afternoon during the summer, which is unreasonable. So I spoke to Rabbi Pam, and Rabbi Pam said, as long as he plays and he's relaxing, it's fine. What should he tell his parents? He could tell them that he played 3 hours a day, aber nicht sagen liegen. I said, what did that mean? He could say, but nicht sagen liegen. And I understood. That was a sensitivity. It was, Tim Shekel was nivel peh. So dre out of it, but don't say ligen. You're allowed to lie, but don't lie. That's the attitude. If you take that attitude, you won't slip further. And you look in the Sefer Chassidim, it's Pliadik, one of the Rishonim. Taf, Saf, Reish, Samach, Aleph. If they ask you, did you learn the Masechta? You're allowed to say Leila Marati, but if you're an Ish Emes that doesn't say Sheker, you can't lie. So what do you do instead? Yafligim b'dvar machayim. Change the subject. So again, he's not arguing on the Gemara, but it's a sensitivity. If you have a situation, try to use your creativity. Some people, use their imagination to lie. Use your imagination to avoid lying. And you see how careful Chazal were when you have a heta not to abuse it. The Sefer Chassidim in Siman Tov Chav Vav has the following question. Someone asks you for a loan. Now, his definition of loan is a donation. You're not going to see the money again. But you don't want to say, I'm not giving you the money because I'm not going to see it again. So, are you allowed to say, I don't have money? Zok to say, we would think, of course you're allowed to. You don't want to embarrass the fellow. Zok to say, you're not allowed to lie. The Gemara that we learned, Darkei Shalom, that's only something in the past. Something happened, you're allowed to lie to get out of trouble. But to lie ala haba in the future, there's no heta. Now this is a famous chiddush of the Sefer Chassidim that much has been written to understand. If it's Darkei Shalom, what's the difference, the past or the future? So there are many kashas on it. In fact, the Magen Avram and the Mishnah Berurah and the Rav in Siman Kuf Nun Vav discussed this chiddush, and they asked a kasha on the Sefer Chassidim, and the Mishnah Berurah bleibt with Tzarachian. So we could say it's not halacha l'maisa, but the hashkafa is vital. The Sefer Chassidim was concerned. If you're lying about the future, you'll end up saying, Shalom Bayis is all about lying. Promise your wife you'll do it, don't do it, do trouble and get out of it. He was mamish worried about this type of maskana. And this, of course, is a problem. A person that will take sheker in his hands, he will just live with sheker. And Takada, the Sefer Chassidim, was worried about that. But a person has to know, you can't lie unless there's really a heter. Pam Zechon Baruch once told me, when he was a bacha, there was someone in his class who lied regularly. So he wants to approach him and says, you're not allowed to lie. So the fella says, listen to me. The Gemara says you're allowed to lie al darkei shalom. If I say the truth, I'm not at peace with myself. And he wasn't joking. That's what the Sefer Chassidim was worried about. A person that finds the Gemara amidst the lie, he'll use it as a way of life. But Lamaisa, the Sefer Chassidim felt, lie halabah. Now we are makel when need be. If someone asks you for a loan and you're not going to get back the money, you can say, I have no money. The Chafetz Chaim used to be, when such a situation, he was mafke his money, and then he said, I don't have money. Okay. So the point is not the Sefer Chassidim halacha l'maisa, but the shmira that we have to have. I'll give you another example. The Yamsha Shloime in the end of the 6th parak in Yavam is, B'dafka shedavashu bakroi. You're allowed to lie occasionally, but not regularly. And the Lev Chaim in the Tshuvas, the Shalos and Tshuvas, Lev Chaim, Chelik Aleph, Simbol Hey, he says it's just very schwer. Because the Gemara says, Hani plus merely avidi rabbanan, it seems it was the kviyas. So again, it's not the kviyas or not, but there has to be a certain protection. To lie regularly is dangerous. Takit's mutter if need be. But how could a person take this blank check and lie regularly? So again, it's the Sefer Chassidim's chiddush about haba, the Yam Shloim's chiddush about regilas. Both of them you could be mefalpel in halacha if it's takamuta. But both are concerned about this worry. A person will abuse the heter. In fact, it's very mistavra that the lashon avidi rabbanon is the heter is only for rabbanon. An amara to give him the heter, he'll totally distort it. So it seems mineyu bay, we have to realize we're walking on a tightrope. Mitzad echad, sheker is ein davar mos mimenu, the ruination of everything. But in situations that you are certain that it's mutter, then it's not sheker. Then avidi rabbanon. Now let's discuss more practically, and I try to organize it based on the Gemara. Someone asks you, do you know this Masechta? And you know it very well. Again, the answer, like the Aruch Sadikim says, why do you think I know the Gemara? Me, Alavai. Chaim Kanievsky knows the Gemara, not me. Are you finishing Shas soon? So you could say, yeah, I'm trying. I mean, it's very difficult. But when someone could avoid saying something that's gaiva, avada, you should do that. I'll tell you an interesting ha'ora. You see the sensitivity that Chazal had. There's a Mishnah in Avos Aleph Tezvav and Bav Metzia Pei Zayin Amid Beis. Tzadikim, they say ma'at and they do a lot. No, to us, that's a wonderful ma'ila. The question is, why isn't that sheker? You're saying a little, you're doing a lot. So the teretz is anava. You don't want to brag. Also, I guess you'll make the guest feel comfortable when you say, just take a drink, and then you'll give him a suda. The Maral Mi Prague on that Gemara says Punk Fakir. Tzadikim Erma Ma'at Vasei Harba is a protection from sheker. What's going to be if he can't give you a lot? Something comes up. He doesn't want to commit himself and lie. But what's noteworthy, the Sefer Chassidim in Siman Tov, Sof, Shin, Yud, Beis, he says, Tzadik Oy Ma'at Vasei Harba, but be careful. Don't say, I'm just going to give you a cup of water. Zog Sefer Chassidim, that's sheker. Don't say that. Say, take a drink. So even in the godless of Emer Ma'at Vasei Harbe, be careful how you word it, how you phrase it. Just take one bite. And you're going to give him a whole suda, that's a lie. Better say a parvalashim. Just eat something, and then give him a full suda. In other words, in the godless of Emer Ma'at, be careful how you phrase it. I'll give you another example. In Shabbos Daf Lama, when you learn the Gemara, it's a pliya. They asked Rav Tanchum Ashayla, so then he got into a whole musa shmuz, and then in Lamed Abed Beis, he comes back. And regarding the shayla that I asked you, the psak is like this. So the kash is, wait a minute, they asked him a shayla, and then he said that I asked you. So Rashi says a few words, derech anava. Rav Tanchum lied. He said, I asked you, even though you asked me, but he didn't want to show I'm Mr. Know-it-all, you asked me shaylas. So he employed the heta of anava. That's probably included in Masechta. I'll tell you a ma'aser pellet. I can't get over it. Rabbi David Jungreis, one of the Gedolei Yishalayim, was a goy in Olam, and he said Mordecai Chedushim, but he was afraid of coming to Gaiva. So what could he do? He would go into a room and say the Chiddush, and then he would say Ich gehert Chiddush. I don't know what's the biggest spilus, that he did this or he thought of it. To say, I heard it myself. This way, it's not his chiddush, and he wasn't lying. That's Masechta. I'll tell you a halacha l'maisa. We learned already about Chosh Mishpat, Ebenezer, now this is Arachayim. In the end of Tovkuf Samachei, Shemach is speaking about a self-imposed tainus. Someone's makabel tainus as a tshuva. So, Makabel warns you, if you brag about it to others, you get punished, because gaiva is terrible. Frag the Taz and Magen Avram, and the Mishnah Berurah quotes it. And let's say someone asks you point blank, I know that you're not eating breakfast, you didn't eat lunch. Are you fasting today? Tell me the truth. Zok the Taz, you're allowed to say, no, I'm not fasting, even though you are fasting. It's a lie. He quotes our Gemara in Bava Metziach of Gimel Amud Beis Masechta. It's lav dafka anivus in learning, anivus in anhaga. Now, of course, if you could avoid it, say, no, I'm just, I'm on a diet. I saw the Nazira Shimsha on that Mechaba says, best to avoid lying. But if it comes to it, you're actually allowed to lie to maintain anivus. I had a Moritika Aora. Are you allowed to, let's say a person writes an article or a sefer, and he wants to keep anava. Can he write a false name? In other words, if he writes anonymously, that's not checked. Chafetz Chaim printed his sefer anonymously. If he writes a name with quotation marks that indicate it's a pen name, no. But if he writes a wrong name, a wrong address, just check him. Is that mutter? So obviously that would be our Gemara. That's Masechta. Now, of course, the heta is not writing because there's no heta to write sheker. There's an issa ksiva sheker. So the heta would be Masechta. And Reiz Apella, the Ben Ish Chai wrote the Tshuva Sefer that we're familiar with, Rav Pa'olim. There was another Sefer that is signed Cheskel Kuchli, and that's the Sefer Torah Lishma. But it's clear that he wrote that Sefer with a pen name Cheskel Kuchli. I imagine he wanted it to be Torah Lishma. That's why he called it Torah Lishma. He didn't put it in the Rav Pa'olim, and he wrote it with a pen name. So if he did it, obviously it's justifiable. Why is it mutter? That's Masechta. It happens, a person has Leil Tefillah, and you have to go, and where you going? Where you going? So again, this is the heta of Puria. You're allowed to lie and say, I'm going shopping. If it's ever negeya to Leil Oina, a person is in the mikveh, he's going to the mikveh or leaving, where you going? Afad, you can't say where he's going. So that would be included in the heta of Puria. A sticky question, you're learning with a child some sensitive issues. Are you allowed to distort the pshat to maintain tznius? So I saw both Rabbi Yashiv and Rabbi Zalman are quoted as saying, you're not allowed to distort Torah. So I wonder, what about the heta of Puria, the heta of tznius? So could be Pashit, the Yamsha Shloim Bava Kama, it's a famous Yamsha Shloim Bava Kama, Perek Dalet Siman Tes, writes, you're not allowed to distort Torah, and he says it's Yehareg Val Yavar. Famous story in the Gemara. But basically, Torah is emes, and you can't teach Torah wrongly, even if it is B'kuach Nefesh. That's the famous Chiddush of Yamsha Shloim. So it could be that's the hergish. You can't teach a word and teach it wrongly. But it could be more pashut. I think that's the emes of pshat. You don't have to say wrong pshat or right pshat. Our children have been learning for dairis, sensitive words, and they don't know what they're talking about, and they lived happily ever after. If you don't know how to do it, ask any skilled Rabbi how to teach a child a sensitive word. And it happens, it's done. It happens, it goes, it works. So we're back to the original Yesod, that if you could avoid lying, then you could keep tznius without violating sheker. A person had wonderful accommodations. Someone asked you, how was it? So I saw Rav Moshe in the Dibros, in Sifkat and Lamed Aleph, in the Oris, says, what are you going to say? He treated you like a king. You're going to say, he treated me terribly? What kind of option is that? That's Hitzol Hashem, that's Lashon Hara. So Moshe says, what the Gemara means, Ushpiza, is, say, I didn't end up staying by him. But let's say people know you stayed by him. So you could say, you know something, I had my own food, I didn't eat his food, I don't know how his food was. Okay, the truth is the best eitzah, is, what people do today regularly. How was it? Okay. Yes, how was the camp? Okay. Then you're not going to cause a person problems. That would be the best way of avoiding, lavish praise. Now, but I want to mention one thing, that the truth is, to say it was terrible in a situation that otherwise will harm the balabas is not a bad option. Because the Gemara says praising the balabas is also Lashon Hara. That's the L'klali Yachashav Loi. The Chafetz Chaim says excessive praise that gets the person in trouble is also Lashon Hara. So saying bad is Lashon Hara, saying good is Lashon Hara. So at least when you say bad, the person won't be harmed. That's probably the Pashut what the Gemara means. a very important concept is the Gemara in Ksubis, and that is praising another person. So we paskin in Even Ezer, Siman Samachay, Sifav, like Beis Hillel, you're allowed to say Kala No v'Chasuda, even though it's not the truth. The question is, Beis Shammai's Taina, it says Midvar Sheker Tirchad. So I'll tell you, 4 Nevi'im nisnabnu b'signain echad. The Taz of Anord, the Maral on that Gemara, Maral's in the Siv Emes, the end of Perik Aleph, the Prisha of Anord, and the Masha in Ksubas all say what I think is the Pashata Tayr Pshat in the Gemara. And basically, if the Chassan chose that Kala, obviously she found Chen in his eyes. So who cares what the truth is? He's not asking if you want to marry her. He married already. The question is, how do you describe the Kala to the Chassid? Zok the Taz, as long as she found Chen in his eyes, that's what's important. And that's the Pshat Kala No v'Chasuda. In other words, Al Tam v'Reach Ein Liz Vakeach. It's not negay what you think. This negay to the Chassid. Or in English, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So it's not a sheker. You have to tell him what he has to hear. His decision was a good one because he made that decision. That's definitely the Pashat Pshat. There is a different Pshat, a little more practical. If it becomes standard that every speech is wonderful chassan, wonderful kala, it no longer means anything and it's no longer sheker. You can make a speech and you say, by the way, who's the chassan? I don't even know the chassan, but this is the speech. So it's not sheker, it's standard. I think the Taz means to say the word chasuda no longer has too much meaning. But either case, it's important to understand this, that chen is a subjective word. I'll give you another mashal. You see someone coming towards you and he say, why is he wearing his younger brother's suit? And he comes and says, I bought a new suit, how do you like it? What do you do then? So the teretz is, kala no v'chasuda. If he chose that suit, obviously he likes it. You think that it's a mekach toys? It's not negeya. That's when Beis Hillel says, person bought a mekach, forget about your personal preference. If he bought it, then praise it. Now, if lemaisa it's unacceptable, it's a mistake, and he could still return it, so you could tell him a nice way, I think you should do a little better. But if it's no longer negeya to returning it, that is kala no v'chasuda. For him it's nice, so forget about your taste. The Yesod is those words of the Gemara, La'olam te'dait shel adam ureves im habriya. So Rashi says very clever words. Lasois le'ish v'ish kiritzoinai. It's all about ritzoin hazulas. Forget about yourself. He's asking about himself, so work with his taste, with his preference. And I want to mention, because I think it's a shad, people don't understand this. This is a tremendous tool in chinuch, a tremendous hatzlacha in chinuch. Whether it's children, grandchildren, talmidim, spouses, there's a tremendous hatzlacha that's called a compliment. Whether it's deserving or not, but that's part of kala no v'chasuda. You paint the picture, the child is good, you talk how good he is, he'll probably end up being good. If you say, you're no good, so life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I once asked the mother of Rav Tzvi Finkel, the legendary mashkiach, the Mir Rosh Hashiva, why she was zeichet to such a child, such an outstanding child. He had so many yisurim, and he did so much for Klal Yisrael. She said, I don't know, but one thing I'll tell you, I always complimented him. Because life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And when you paint a picture of a child or a Talmud that he's good, he'll live up to that standard. Our Pam Zechar once told me, he says, there's one kinyan, it's called chazaka. And that's an attitude in chinuch. You go with a strenger hand, you're tough. But there's a better kinyan. It's called, first is meshicha, you draw the Talmud towards you, and then hagbah, lift him up. The meshicha hagbah combination works much better than chazaka. That's a shmuz for itself, but it's an emes. If you pick up the child, if you lift up the child and you say, you're such a good boy, why'd you do that? It doesn't pass for you. That does wonders. Now, is he a good boy? Not yet. But that's kala no v'chasuda. That's the emes. That's the Rebbeinu Shlomo's emes. The Shla teaches, al toichach let's pen yisna eka. Hoichach lechachem v'yaveka. So we teach, it means don't give musa to a let's, give musa to a chacham. Zok the Shla, no. It's the same person. Don't talk to the let's in the person, the bad of the person. Hoichach lechachem, appeal to the chacham in the person. Say you're a good person, why'd you do that? Don't say you're a nobody, because you'll be a nobody. You know, don't lift up the chet too much. Just focus on the good, the inherent good of another yid. That's teichacha, that's building a person. You know, this is an important way of getting the best of the other person. It works in Shalom Bayis also. You say, you're no good, then he'll be no good. But you say, you are good, this doesn't stim, they'll want to live up to that attitude. There's a unbelievable halacha, Pasha halacha l'maisa, in Yeridei Shin Dalad Mem Sif Aleph, mitzvah g'day lahasper al meis karoi, v'osa lahaflik b'shvacha yois midai. Taka halacha, you're not allowed to exaggerate. The next words of the Shulchan Aruch, maskir midais toivais, u'maisifim behem k'tzas. You'll add in a little bit, rak shaloi yaflik. Now this is very confusing. You're not allowed to lie, you're allowed to add, but don't lie. Freg the Taz, mali sheka mu'et, mali sheka harbe. You're allowed to lie a little lie is mutter chas v'shalom. Zok de birke Yosef adav anifla. We always underestimate another person. We think, he's a 70, but he's really an 85. When you're maisifin ktsas, you're not really exaggerating. You're ending up with the emes of what the person is, because we don't see ma'aseh b'nei adam nistarim heim. Ein safik zok de birke Yosef that there's more to the person than you see. So by adding a little bit, you're ending up with the real picture of what the person is. Now that's true, Leilenu in a hesped, but that's true in life as well. We see a child, we see a spouse, we see a relative, we see a worker, a boss, whatever it is, but we don't see the real person. And if you're a little more generous in your assessment, in your appraisal, in your compliments, that is the truth. Halavai, we should hear this more and more, that using the koyach of compliments, even if it's not well-deserved at this time, but that's going to bring out what you want to see. Now, of course, when someone asks you information about a shidduch, you have to be a little more specific and a little more literal, because, saying a hesped on a mace, if it's exaggerated, is nish gefährlich. No one's going to be harmed. But saying this person is a rashke bahag when he's not, that might harm the other party. So you have to use seichel. But the ikka is, understand that compliments are a very important tool in atzlachas ha'adam. Question. Someone is having a very hard time in Panasa, and you want to pashutly menachem him, sorry, the Rab Chatzi Nechama, you say, you know what, I'm also going through very difficult times. But it's not true. You're doing well in business. Are you allowed to lie to give someone nechama? So Reis Appel, it's not my Zustel, the Mefarshim bring a raya from a Gemara. Daf Nun, in the Dorim, the Gemara says, Rabbi Kiva got married to Bas Kalba Savua, and he was an Ani Ve'evyain, and someone came to his house, I need some straw. Who was it? Lamaisi? It was Eliyahu Hanavi, but he was a regular person officially. So Rabbi Kiva says, you see, you think we're better off? This fellow doesn't even have straw. So the question is, how did Eliyahu lie? He didn't need straw. Eliyahu was no longer living. Chas v'shalom, Eliyahu lay mace. So from that Gemara, you see, you're allowed to make up a story to be menachem someone else. Question: are you allowed to exaggerate? People, you say there was a ton of food by that kiddush. I learned a ton is 2,000 pounds. Is there a ton of food by that kiddush? It's becoming more and more the concept of exaggerations. So the emes is, although it doesn't seem right, but you can't say it's wrong, because the Gemara says in Chulin Daf Tzadik Amid Beis, Dibra Torah b'lashon havoi, Dibra Chacham b'lashon havoi, Dibra Neviim b'lashon havoi, and what is lashon havoi? Zokt Rashi, lashon hedya she'eini medagdik b'dvarav, u'maitzi mipiv dava she'enai, v'lo yischaven l'sheker ela loidak. So again, I don't fully understand why taka aren't we more medagdik? Isn't that really worthy of making a word a word? But certainly, if Chazal said we find in the Torah allowed to use exaggerations, The Gemara gives examples. So we can't say it's sheker, and I think it's the same yesod. When someone says there was a ton of food, he means a lot of food. Imagine someone, he's a per mapik magolius, right? So why don't you go with the box in front of his, when he's speaking, and put it down and catch all the pearls? Teretz, it doesn't mean literally, so it's a way of talking. So words have no meanings. I told you 1,000,000 times, don't exaggerate. People say that. There you go. It's just a way of talking. But Lamaisa, of course, when a person that's more medactic, that's certainly more accurate. But one thing I think is pashut. When someone lies, and then a while later, by the way, I was just joking. That's not a joke, that's a lie. And Chavetz Chaim and Sfas Taman says it's beferish. He says if someone lies and says later, no, I was just joking, it's still a sheker. Remember, I was still a young bucket and I had a friend of mine, his father was an Adam Gadol. His father used to say, don't say I'm joking, say I'm lying. It's true. You say you're joking, you feel, listen. Okay, you want to be a lamdan, if you say a lie and toicha they did, but you say I'm joking, maybe you could retract. But to make a story and then later retract, that's not a guzma, that's a lie. One of my Rabbi used to say, Meleben at Zeit is an inflatia von Titlen. There's an inflation of titles. Today, Harav Goyin is nobody. Today everybody's a Rashke Bahag. They say Rav Shach was once by a Chassan or by a Chup, and after he says, Baruch Hashem, Zeks Naye Goyinim in Klal Yisrael. Harav Goyin this and that. So, again, it's probably the same heta like the Guzma. But if you want to see about titles, I would advise you take a look in the Agdama of Chuvas Rabbi Kiva Eiga. He says, when you print my svarim, please don't put any titles. He says, in my lifetime, I couldn't be soivel them. He says, Ribuim kosher miutim la yafa. He says, either it's avak chanufa for the writer, for the receiver, either it's gaiva, or sinas chenim if he doesn't get enough covered. He says, but I couldn't be soivel it. Keep those titles out. I made a Kabbalah when I get a Shaila, I cover over the Agdama. I don't even read this Narishkeit. So obviously a sensitive person can't be soivel a lack of emes. But again, this is a world of titles, so Rav Goyin means nothing, Rashke Bahag is also almost nothing today. So whatever it means, it means. A person you see someone's being mezalzel on a certain halacha, and you want to give emphasis to the severity. Could you say, you should know it's a beferisha halach and shulchan aruch when it's really not? So this is a Magen Avram in Kuf Nun Vav Sit Katan Beis. He quotes two Gemaras in Erevin Nun Aleph and Psachim Kuf Yud Beis. But you're allowed to do that. And I gotta want to add in Shabbos Kuf Tez Vav and in Shabbos Kuf Lam Betes, you see two other rayas that if a person will not follow Allah unless you make it into a beferisha Gemara, you're allowed to say it's a beferisha Gemara. It's not such a beferisha Gemara, but again, the purpose is to achieve Ratzon Hashem, then that's acceptable. What do you do if someone says, I heard Pliny spoke about me, tell me, what did he say? So this is a perfect situation of Mishanin, Mimedar Shalom. So up to Chavetz Chaim, Rechilas Aleph Ches, if you could change the subject, avoid lying outright, do that. But if need be, you could say, he said nothing bad about you. And the Chavetz Chaim's lashon is, you could say, a sheker bepiv. The teretz is pashat. That's our Gemara, Darkei Shalom. Someone suggests a shidduch, and not only, it's not a havamina, you're insulted about the offer. But you don't want to tell him that. So you're allowed to say, I'm busy. That you're allowed to. I'm busy, rather finding a better shidduch than this one. But that would be a good heter. That's something that's not necessarily an outright lie, but that may be Darkei Shalom. Someone offers you food and you either don't like it or you don't trust the kashrus. So Re'ezah felt, this is another Gemara. This is an Erevin, Nun Gimel Amud Beis. Rabbi Yeshua was given food that was burnt, and he said, I ate already today. Now, Lamaisa wasn't true, but he didn't want to embarrass the host. So today we have ways of doing it. You could say, I'm not hungry, or you could say, the food is hafla of a fella. Somebody asks you, how was the food? Hafla of a fella. You're referring to the hafla of a fella in the Teichacha. Or like, I'm fleishiks. I am not fleishiks, but I'm a boss of a dam. So I'm fleishiks, somewhere. All these kunsten, I'm on a diet. They say Rabbi Lapian didn't want to eat a certain food. He says that my doctor doesn't allow it. Who is his doctor? The Rambam. The Kaf HaChaim in Tavkuf Samachei Sivkot Lamavav says beferish, you're allowed to lie if need be. It's all the same yisoid if you're doing it for an objective, for a good objective. That's not lying. I'll give you another example. Someone is very matzliach and he wants to downplay his atzlacha. So he wants to lie about his money or whatever it is. It's atzlacha. So this is basically a Tanchumen Vayishlach Gimel. Yakov said, "Vayili shor v'chamor." I had much more than that, but he wanted to downplay his atzlacha. And there's a Mabel Dika Ramah. It's interesting. The Ramah is quoted in Hilchas Tahara, but the Ramah is also, you see, an indication for our Shaila. A woman had 3 early pregnancies, and she was worried that it was because of an ayin hara. So she wanted to say Tmei Ani. So if she's Tamei, she's not expecting. So the Tazn Yeridei Kuf Behei Gimel quotes this, that it's not like she's Shavi and Afshechaticha de Surah, so she's not Tamei. But it didn't occur to the Ramah that you're not allowed to lie and say Tmei when she's not Tmeya, because apparently if you're avoiding something evil, you're allowed to lie. It's probably the same Yisayid. And last but not least, what I think is probably the most important halacha l'maisa, let me tell you a Gemara that was worth the whole shir just for this Gemara. This is a Gemara in Yevamos Daf Samach Gimel Amud Beis. Rav Nebuch had a wife, not stam a bad wife, but that was Marmi Mavis. Whatever he wanted, she did the opposite. He wanted chicken for supper, she made fish. And this went on for obviously a long time, but he got used to it. One day he noticed that she's getting better. He asked for fish, and she got fish. So he asked his son, Bechia, what happened to your mother? What happened? She's giving what I want. Bechia said, no, it was nothing to do with the mother, it's me. Because I was conveying the message, what you want. And I realized that something's going wrong. You say fish, and she makes chicken. So I decided, when you say you want fish, I tell her Tati wants chicken, so she made fish. It's a Gemara. So Rav says, Mama, you have a son that outsmarts his father? Wonderful idea, but you don't do that. And he quotes the pasuk in Navi, Limdu l'shainim daber sheker. Ad kan lashon hagemar. So the question is obvious. Why did Rav suffer terribly? He could have lied and said, I want fish, when he really wanted chicken. And if it's taka asa to do, so why did he say, I'll tell his son, I could do it, but you can't do it? What do I mean? Your father's allowed to lie? And if it is taka sheker, why did he quote the pasuk, Limdu l'shayim laber sheker, not the pasuk, the sheker tirchak? So to me, what I think is the halacha l'maisa, the Meiri says, you're allowed to lie darkei shalom. But that's only if, otherwise a churban will come out of this. Rav got used to getting what he didn't want. That's what the Meiri says. You know what the Meiri means to say? Rav was able to live with a wife that's marmi mavis. But the thought that his son is doing something less than honest, that Rav couldn't bear. In other words, it wasn't sheker. It was darkei shalom. And that's what Rav said it's mutter. And it's taka not sheker. And that's why he didn't quote the pasuk, Limdu, he didn't quote the pasuk, not sheker tirchak. But the concern was, I'm training my child to do something that's less than honest, even though it's mutter. But that, to me, is the biggest hispilus. Rav was able to live with a wife that was marmi mavis. But the thought that his child is getting a lack of chinuch in the sensitivity to emes was unbearable. This is something that we have to hear over and over, the way we mechanech our children in emes or sheker. A father tells his child, who's calling? Tell him I'm not home. That's limdu l'shayim daber sheker. You go on a chalamoy trip, under 8 is half price, tell the man you're 7.5 years old. That's limdu l'shayim daber sheker. That's a horrible chinuch. But we have to live limdu l'shayim daber emes. Rav's sensitivity is halacha l'maisa. The Shloah HaKadosh writes, in Shar Oisi is Ois Dal Derech Eretz, he met an old Svardish Yid that if you give him all the money in the world, he could not lie. And I once asked him, how did you get this? He said, my father, in our house, when someone did something wrong, if you admitted, you got rewarded. If you lied, you got punished terribly. And my father was Mekayim, Emes Kinei Va'al Timker. And I will add, he was also Mekayim Limdu L'Shayim Daber Emes. He trained his children. Let me just be Messiah with one more thought. I went to Rapam, remember it was Pesach, Tavshin Samach Aleph. A few months before he was nifta, he was very sick then. He said, I can't sleep at night. but I'm thinking a lot about my mother. And I made a cheshbon before he told me this, that the story had happened at least 80 plus years earlier. And he's thinking about a story 80 plus years ago. What kind of story is it? Listen to the story. His father was a Rav in a little shtetl in Litza, and he happened to be in America for a certain reason. And a lady from the city asked his mother, Rebbe Pam, the Rav's in America. I have an Uncle Yankel in America, and we need money. Let the Rav go to my Uncle Yankel in America and get money for us. So Rapam told me, my mother thought it was a very silly request. How do you find Uncle Yankel in America? Like you think he's a little hole in the wall? So she ignored it. A few weeks later, this woman, Punk, was sitting Shiva for a relative, and Rebbetzin Pam went to Menachem Avala, and the woman saw from the distance, jumped up and said, Rebbetzin, du hast uns gerettet, you saved us. We got money from Uncle Yankel. So Pam told me, my mother was in a dilemma like never before. She did nothing to get credit, because she didn't contact Uncle Yankel. But is it the right time now to say, I didn't do anything, this is a base oval? She said, I didn't know what to do, but I couldn't tolerate sheker. I couldn't hear words that were not honest. So I said, I'm sorry, I don't get any credit, I did nothing to get the money. So Rapam told me, my mother, Kol Yomeh, thought back to that, did I do the right thing or not? Maybe I shouldn't have done it, but I couldn't hear a word that's less than emes. So I was thinking, he's thinking about this 80 plus years later. Why was Rapam the Mustav emes? Because his mother was Limdu L'shoinem Daber emes. A guten Tag to you all.
English would like to thank Rabbi Smith for the wonderful emes Dikashir. Rabbi say Shalsheles, as you all know, is a school of hundreds of girls that don't have a home and don't have a school, and right here in Barapak, Baruch Hashem, they're becoming Yiddish mamas with doiris, with gute peiris. They're making now a campaign, all the Rabbanim in town. It started with Rav Pam's but all the Rabbanim are asking everybody to contribute for the school Shalsheles. This is Hatzolas Nefoshes Mamish. You have $100, you go into a raffle of $100,000, and then you go into matching, people are giving money for this. In the next 26 hours, it's such a big schus. Please, everybody take part in Shalsheles Hatzolas Nefoshes Misrael Mamish. Tu B'Shvat is starting tonight. Medaf doch gitte Deures, gitte Peiris. There's no biggest chust than that and giving for Yiddish kinderlach to be ehrliche Yidden. Tiskre mitzvah. B'cham rekashem marot kodesh bocha lezako is Yisrael. Lefiger hebelem teure mitzvah. Shneman an echofes man sitka yagel teviade. Kaddish. Rabbi said, please help Shalsheles in the hallway. There's a raffle. Everybody buy a raffle. Have a schus of helping Yiddish kinder. Tiskar mitzvahs.
Smith, my shver wasn't brisk. He had to get out of the country before the war. The Bishop, the Bishop had to be a certain age on the age to leave. The Bishop was birth certificate. Changed his birth certificate to a different date. Brisk, and he, like Shev, grew up near Brisk. Yeah, what's that? What's that? What's that?
MS is not called pediclic, it's not the right way to say MS. No,
Why?
pediclic is MS.
Oh,
Right? Because
That's
the
not.
aleph is a cut of thing. It's just like you have to the MS. So MS is shekel. Take the coin.
yeah, it's a lot.
Come here.
I should have done that too.
And he was involved with that
The Gemara always says, the Bral says it's
I think we're ready something here. It's not that much.
That's not the point. The point is it says February. Expires in February. I think so. Am I wrong? Maybe when he was still
What's the name next week is also all the battery, that's what happened. That's why this one could die. Too strong. No.
it's not accurate.
Someone that was very surprised said it was not.
It's fine.
Is there a way you
Just the whole thing or
okay?
I
One second, I think one second you need the that's when you need batteries. Also, I don't have a battery. Okay.
Ready?
Both side emisses that we're going to hear the Sikkim now from Smith on the today's share. Just 5 minutes. Shh.
There's
no doubt one of the Yisaitis of Yiddishkeit is emes. We have to be Ma'aseh Nefesh for the emes. We have a Teiras emes. We have a B'nai Shalom emes. And deviating from the emes is avodah zarah. But we do see there are situations based on the Gemara in Bamitzia, Yavamis, Ksubis, and other places that there are times that we could say something that's not the perfect truth. But the basic klal is that emes means Ratzon Hashem, and sheker is churban of Ratzon Hashem. So when a person finds that he has to say what's less than the truth, that's not sheker, that's emes. It's not a lavera lishma, it's not esadei chaloisa say, it's like lashon hara l'te'eles, that's not lashon hara. This is sheker l'te'eles, that's not really sheker. But basically, that would explain why Aaron HaKohen went to extremes to bring shalom. That explains why the lashon of the Mishnah the Gemara, I should say, of Mishana b'diburai, does not say sheker, because you're allowed to be Mishana, but it's not really sheker. And therefore, since it is with great reluctance that we have to deviate from the truth, if you could avoid it by deflecting the question, making a joke, I know the Masechta, that's required. If I had to do it, but we saw there are some shittas you can't lie al haba, you can't lie as a regilus. Now, even though we don't paskin like that, but the message is it can't become a way of life. You can't justify wrongdoing by relying on the emergency hatch of lying. Emar ma'at vasei harbe is anava, but say it carefully. Just eat a little bit. Don't say eat just one bite or 1 cup of water. That's lying. Emar ma'at is not lying, it's anava. You're not supposed to brag about your fasting, and if you're asked point blank, you're allowed to say, no, I'm not fasting, even though you are. Writing with a pen name is okay. To try to conceal leil tefillah or leil oina is also okay if there's no other choice. Learning with a child, just brush over the sensitive words. How was your host? You could say okay, or you could, and rather if need be, when there's no problem of hurting someone else, you're allowed to say the truth. But when there's a chashash that people will go to the person's house, so just downplay the person's benevolence. Complimenting is a very effective tool in chinuch, in Beinad Mechaveroi. Use it properly. The chasen kala, the chen, amekach is the chen, it's not sheker, but use compliments generously, it brings very good results. It's not lying, it's really what the person is supposed to be. If someone asks you, how do you like my suit? If you could still return it, so you could tell him the truth, but if not, then just realize it's good for him, and it's not negate what your particular preference is. Teichacha is the same way. Talk good about the person and lift the person, but really highlight the person's goodness. If a hesped, you're allowed to be Maisif and K'tzas, because that's really the true person. We always underestimate a person's godless. An exaggeration, a lashon havai, is not lying, it's understood. It's almost like that's the meaning of the word. A ton is a lot. The inflation of titles has become part of our way of talking, but basically it should not be used in a way that might harm someone else. If someone asks you, what did he say about me, and you no way of getting out of causing machlekes, you're allowed to lie and say he said nothing bad about you. If someone wants to give you food, you're not hungry, you don't want to eat it, you don't trust the kashrus of the taste, you could say, I'm not hungry, I'm fleishik, I'm on a diet, the doctor doesn't let. You're allowed to downplay your assets or your bracha, and even by lying, because you're avoiding ayin hara or kinna. And the extreme importance of chinuch habanim, we have to focus on limdu l'shoinem, daber emes, avoid saying things that might mislead our child about our tremendous sensitivity of emes kinei va'al timka.
Isn't there also the word that I need to masim oishid for the children? Is it Mishnah Gemara?
Ovid in Asia, but that doesn't.
Yeah.